In 1988, motorcycle gang violence comes to a small Ohio town. A shocking murder with no warning. When police realize a biker gang might be involved, they ask FBI organized crime experts for help. The gang appears impenetrable, but investigators are determined to get inside and find the killers.
When gangs go to war, they don't care who gets in the way. In 1988, an innocent man was gunned down near Cleveland, Ohio, a victim of a deadly initiation. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. The FBI needed to infiltrate the gang's secretive and violent world. They hoped groundbreaking forensic science would help them put the killers away.
To most riders, motorcycles represent freedom, adventure, and fun. But some bikers come together to form dangerous gangs. As the ranks of these gangs grew in the 1980s, the violent crime attributed to them increased. Like the mafia, their often criminal enterprise drew the attention of FBI organized crime squads, according to Cleveland FBI Special Agent Stuart Shoaff.
The motorcycle gang problem throughout the United States was fairly large at that time. We had a large chapter of motorcycle gang members here in Cleveland.
The principal biker gang in Cleveland made their money off drug dealing, theft of interstate shipments, and extortion. Like mob families, they protected their interests and their secrets with violence. Whenever multiple gangs developed in an area, tensions between them inevitably grew. Across the country, battles for control of territory were intense. When one gang struck against another, retributions always followed. An escalating cycle of wild aggression. In an incident that reflected how far the gangs would go, one biker gang blew up the clubhouse of a rival gang with a rocket launcher. These gangs would do anything to continue their criminal enterprise. Organized crime squads needed to stop them. Trying to develop information on the major gang in Cleveland, agents tried surveillance, but it wasn't easy.
This group knew that they were being watched by us and local law enforcement. When they had a meeting at their clubhouse, they would post a guard out in front of the chapter clubhouse and watch for any suspicious cars in the neighborhood.
The gang protected the people on their street from outside crime, so grateful neighbors would not talk to investigators either. The Cleveland gang might have guarded those in their own neighborhood, but not everyone enjoyed such safety. Around 10 o'clock on the evening of February 27th, 1988, outside Cleveland in Perkins Township, 28-year-old store clerk David Hartlaub and a co-worker had closed the music store where they worked. Hartlaub was headed to a nearby bank to deposit the store's cash receipts. He didn't know he had company inside his van. Or that he was being tailed. For security, his co-worker always followed him to the bank, which was less than a mile away. Neither man noticed the dark sedan on Hartlaub's tail. By the time they got to the bank, his coworker had fallen 20 seconds behind. It took less than that to strike. When the coworker pulled up, he saw the van taking off. He spotted his friend down, but a man with a gun ordered him to leave. Several other customers came to use the ATM and were ordered at gunpoint to stay in their cars. Then the gunman ran off, leaving David Hartlob lying on the asphalt.
911.
There's been a shooting. We need to get someone over here right away.
Where at?
I'm over at the mall.
In 1988, Perkins Township was a small town with only 11 police officers on the force.
Hold on 1 second. We have shots fired at the bank behind the mall. 2 or 3 subjects involved, possibly left in a van.
Within minutes, nearly all of the Perkins Township officers were on the scene, including current police chief Tim McClung.
The crime scene overall was very chaotic when I arrived. The paramedics were first approaching the victim. He was on the ground. He was struggling to try and right himself, obviously seriously injured.
Hartlob was in shock, but alive. The number of entrance and exit wounds and the enormous blood loss struck the paramedics. None of them had worked this degree of gunshot trauma before. The best they could do in the field was keep him breathing and stem the blood flow. David Hartlob made it to the hospital, but died 20 minutes later. Police interviewed Hartlob's co-worker and the other shocked witnesses.
Originally, the information coming from the witnesses was very confusing. Obviously, you had different officers talking to different witnesses. The different witnesses saw different things from their perspective. The stories were conflicting, and it was problematic at first.
Investigators concluded there were 3 suspects. One in the van, one driving the dark sedan, and one who threatened the witnesses. The co-worker described him as an Asian or Hispanic male.
A witness saw the victim fall out of the van onto the roadway, and the van drove off. Now, based upon that information, we took a dog out into the field, attempted to do an area search.
Other officers inventoried and collected the physical evidence at the bank. A set of keys determined to be for Hartlob's music store would be checked for fingerprints. And they would send ejected shell casings to the ballistics lab. McClung's tracking dog followed a scent from the bank toward a hotel.
It led about a quarter of a mile around the hotel and back into another parking area where I discovered the van. As we approached the van, I had my weapon drawn.
The dog barked its signal for clear, but McClung and the backup officer had to be sure. There was no one inside. The officers knew not to disrupt any evidence that might be in the van and waited for crime scene technicians to arrive.
We weren't sure if the suspect could still be in the area. I mean, he could have been in a tree line watching us for all we knew.
The technicians began processing the second crime scene to determine what had happened.
There were rounds that penetrated through the back of the driver's seat, through the victim, and out through the door of the vehicle. It went along with the theory that he was ambushed inside the vehicle, that the shooter was behind.
Technicians noted a great deal of blood spatter, mostly on and around the front seat. They collected samples of the blood from each pool for examination at the serology lab. Between the seats, they found a Mac 11 semi-automatic handgun.
The type of weapon we recovered led us to believe that this was not a couple of guys got together and decided to go rob somebody making a night deposit. I mean, this is not a weapon that you typically encounter on a small Midwestern town.
Someone had ground off the serial number and attached a plastic bag to catch ejected shells. Police found it odd that such an evidence-conscious killer would leave the gun behind. Perhaps he panicked or was injured. The Mac 11 had also been modified with a homemade silencer.
It led us to believe that the people involved were quite possibly, for lack of a better term, professional.
But they weren't experts. The silencer was not aligned properly and caused each bullet to split in two, sending shrapnel flying throughout the van.
We knew that he was making a bank deposit, so we were feeling that this was along the lines of a robbery.
Yet inside the van, they recovered the music store's deposit bag.
Yeah, it's got some receipts in there.
Once the money bag was found inside the vehicle with over $4,000 inside, that theory quickly was cast to the side.
The crime scene technicians retrieved multiple bullet fragments and several complete slugs from the van. They determined 13 rounds had been fired, all from behind. A brutal execution.
Somebody wanted him dead. There was a lot of motivation there. Maybe this was a contract killing. Could have been a murder for hire, but somebody definitely wanted him dead.
McClung and another canine handler had their dogs search for the suspect's trail leading away from the van. But neither dog could key on any scent.
As a canine handler, it was my job to interpret what the dog was trying to tell us, and I believe that the dog was telling us that the suspect's left in a car.
As some officers wrapped up the crime scene, the others fanned out across the township, looking for 3 men in a dark sedan. It had been Perkins' first murder in more than 10 years, and police wanted to find the killers fast. Early the next morning, in the adjacent town of Sandusky, 2 officers returned to the Sandusky police station in the middle of what they thought was a routine shift. When their supervisor briefed them on the murder in Perkins, the mundane suddenly became remarkable. They realized they might have seen the shooting suspects the previous night. Hours earlier, the 2 officers had pulled over a dark sedan for making an illegal right turn on red. They had identified the driver as Mark Verdi. The front passenger, Stephen Yee, owned the vehicle. Both men lived in Cleveland's suburbs. The officers noticed Yee wore a belt buckle with the Cleveland biker gang's insignia and a hunting knife, though that was not illegal. The third man was in the back seat, but at the time, they had no reason to check his ID. The officers called in Yee and Verdi's information. Everything was in order. Since they were unaware of the shooting, they let the 3 men go. The traffic stop had been at 9:56 p.m., about 5 minutes after the murder, and 3 miles away from the crime scene. The officers said the front passenger, Stephen Yee, and the car closely matched the descriptions given by witnesses at the bank. Sandusky police immediately alerted their colleagues in Perkins, frustrated that the killers might have gotten away because of a technology glitch.
Chief, this is Lieutenant Fiducia.
At the time, the Perkins Police Department and the Sandusky Police Department, which have a bordering jurisdiction, were operating on two separate police frequencies. The officer had no idea that we had just had a shooting.
The belt buckle was an important clue. Police knew anyone wearing the gang's insignia was almost certainly a member. A non-member caught wearing the insignia risked violent punishment or death. Investigators now had suspect names, but if the secretive gang was involved, solving the crime might be impossible.
Investigating biker gangs is a unique investigation. They are very closed-mouthed. They actually, one of the gangs has a saying that 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead.
After David Hartlaub was gunned down in Perkins Township, Ohio, police developed 2 suspects whom they believed were connected to a Cleveland biker gang. Aware that federal authorities were investigating this very gang as a suspected organized crime ring, local officers called Special Agent Charles Holloway at the FBI's Sandusky Resident Agency.
Yes.
The Perkins Police Department contacted the FBI to see if we were in a position to provide them with any intelligence information on the 2 individuals who had been identified at the time of the traffic stop.
Holloway knew the best source of information was Special Agent Stuart Shoaff in Cleveland, who headed the FBI's criminal biker investigation in the area. Shoaff had been trying to build a file on the Cleveland chapter of the gang.
Oh, it's very difficult to investigate a group like that. We worked a long time trying to get more information about them, develop intelligence information, and put together a case on them that would put these individuals away for a long time.
He'd been unable to plant moles inside the secretive gang. But undercover agents had gotten close enough to learn details about its structure. Prospective members, called prospects, wore banners on their jackets listing the city the gang ran in. Full members wore jackets with complete patches they called their colors. The initiation for prospects to earn their colors had its price.
The initiation has to do with some type of violent act towards either a rival motorcycle gang member or an individual that has maybe wronged one of the members.
The requirement of violence was designed in part to weed out undercover law enforcement trying to infiltrate, since no law officer could commit such a crime. Through their ongoing investigation, FBI agents were able to identify many of those involved with the gang, including the 2 men ID'd in the traffic stop in Sandusky on the night of the Hartlaub murder. Special Agent Shoaff knew the passenger, Stephen Yee, was a full-fledged gang member. And the driver, Mark Verdi, was a prospect. The 3rd man was a mystery, but agents were confident he was linked to the Cleveland gang, too.
Hey, last night.
Investigators knew about a rival gang that had a clubhouse in Sandusky. The rivalry between the 2 gangs had been escalating and had recently moved up a notch. Agents had heard of an incident in a bar a few months earlier. The rival gangs found themselves in the same place, and each wanted control of the territory. Bikers consider their colors sacred. A member of the rival gang made off with a prized trophy, the jacket of one of the Cleveland bikers. It was a profound insult.
They're right there, they were. Where are they now?
Accusations flew,
Hey, man. Y'all seen these colors?
and no one would back down.
What colors?
Colors was on that chair about 2 minutes ago.
I don't see no colors, man.
We had colors right here on the chair.
Where's your buddy? Oh, buddy. The skinny one. Man, there's two of us sitting here. The guy that
Hey,
two of us
hey,
here.
man, come on. We put up with that,
You
man.
got a gun!
Hey, hey!
In the brawl, one of the Cleveland bikers was shot. Agents had developed a confidential informant associated with the gang. He told them that after the fight, he was at a party where the Cleveland gang talked about the incident. They were looking to retaliate.
Shoot at us. And we do nothing.
And the prospective members saw a perfect opportunity for their initiation as part of the revenge.
All right, gentlemen.
Investigators who had begun outlining the two gangs realized that a member of the rival group drove a van exactly like David Hartlob's. They might have gone after that gang member and made a mistake, according to Perkins Police Chief Tim McClung.
The victim in the case, Mr. Hartlob, had no criminal record. And there was nothing in his background to suggest that he would have been the victim of a murder for hire. And the similarities between the vehicles led investigators to believe that it was a case of mistaken identity. That he was killed because his van matched the rival gang member's van.
Second guess what they were thinking.
Soon after the murder, the ranks of the Cleveland gang grew, according to Sandusky FBI Special Agent George Steinbach.
We had received information from several sources that a celebration party was conducted at in the Cleveland area to celebrate at least two new members of the biker gang. This would be indicative of them being taken in as full-fledged members as a result of committing a heinous crime.
Because of the strong possibility that the gang was involved, Assistant U.S. Attorney Jim Woolley and the Cleveland Area Organized Crime Strike Force came on board.
There were things that needed to be done from the lawyering end, including going to judges and seeking search warrants. So as soon as it became apparent that we were looking at possibly a hit by a biker gang, the Organized Crime Strike Force was brought in to work with the FBI and the police departments to help coordinate the investigation.
The strike force had a theory as to motive and the names of two of the three suspects, Stephen Yee and Mark Verdi. They needed to identify the third and find the evidence to put the killers away. In Ohio, the FBI believed a Cleveland biker gang was behind a brutal, mistaken identity assassination. They identified two suspects as Stephen Yee and Mark Verdi. The FBI kept them under loose surveillance while they continued the investigation. Special Agent Charles Holloway was trying to identify the third suspect and looked to gang expert Stuart Shoaff for help.
Special Agent Shoaff provided us with background information on Yee and Verdi, and he came up with three names of either members or prospects of this motorcycle gang who he felt were most likely to have been the third person in the vehicle.
Investigators needed to interview those three men. The two bikers they found first had solid alibis for the night of the murder. Non-gang members corroborated their stories, and the two men were eliminated as suspects.
Okay, thank you very much.
The one on the list they could not find was John Ray Bonds. He matched the description of the man in the back seat during the traffic stop.
The FBI agents in Cleveland interviewed various members of his family, and what they were told by family members was that John had gone on a 2-week vacation. It was pointed out at that time to us by his grandfather that John also now had his arm in a sling, and that John had told his grandfather and his mother that he had injured his arm at work.
None of the family knew exactly where Bonds was vacationing. While the Cleveland FBI continued the search for Bonds, the nearby Eastlake Police Department turned up important information about suspect Mark Verdi, the driver during the traffic stop. Detective Bob Jackson developed the lead.
A fraud investigator from a local bank contacted us telling us that, well, I have this fraud case involving Mark Verdi, where he had taken out a loan for several $1,000s, landed up using a $10,000 collateral to get the loan, and then landed up stealing the remainder of the money from a good friend of his.
Like most other investigators in the area, Jackson was familiar with the Hartlaub murder. He knew that Verdi was a suspect and that the FBI needed more evidence on him.
So we're thinking, whoa, we really might have something here. We have a fraud case, a theft case that we can investigate, that we could put together, and just maybe we'll luck out and maybe we'll be able to help out these other agencies with this murder case.
They would not risk any procedural errors, according to Assistant U.S. Attorney Jim Woolley.
When you don't have the defendants or the criminals caught on videotape and people don't confess right away and you're trying to get evidence, you have to get evidence legally. You've got to use search warrants, you've got to use subpoenas, you've got to get evidence in a way that's legal so you can later use it in court.
The Superior Court judge signed a warrant that allowed Eastlake Police to search Verdi's home for evidence in the fraud case. FBI agents accompanied them. Legally, they could only observe.
We went there to look for bank documents, and if we saw anything else that we thought might be evidence or have anything to do with this case out in Perkins Township, we would let the FBI know that we saw something that might be pretty interesting.
Verdi? Yes. Detective Jackson, Eastlake Police, Detective Bowersox. We have a search warrant for your premises. Well, it's very
The suspect was not at home, but his wife was fully cooperative.
So, you mind if we come in?
When they explained the warrant and her rights, she let them in.
Sammy, why don't you look around, make sure it's secure in here.
But it was Mark Verdi's name that was on the warrant, so they decided to wait. They didn't want to do anything that might jeopardize using evidence in a later trial. After half an hour, Mark Verdi came home.
Yeah, I'm Mark. Hey, Mark? How you doing, Mark? Mark Verdi?
Records. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Okay.
Mark, come on. You let him in. Mark, we got a search warrant for your residence. We got some federal agents here. We got detectives from Eastlake. Yeah,
He seemed unfazed by the police presence.
Take a look at it. Remember that theft case? Do you remember? Take a look at it. Remember several years ago you took out that loan from the bank for about $7,000. You had a buddy of yours. He gave you 10 grand as collateral. You ended up cashing it, forging the other guy's name. You remember that?
He learned of the fraud case against him and that with the warrant, they could search his entire house.
Ted, Chris, why don't you guys start upstairs? Timmy, why don't you grab Kenny, go down to the basement, start looking around. Hey.
Upstairs, the search quickly paid off when officers found papers relating to the alleged bank fraud. But more importantly, they also discovered several items that might help the FBI with the Hartlaub murder.
Ski mask. We found a briefcase, and you open up the briefcase and there's a mask in there, there's gloves, and the grinder was in there. And shavings, metal shavings.
The grinder and shavings might be related to the serial number ground off the murder weapon recovered from the van.
You see this map?
one where you got the stuff?
As we're searching, we see a map, and it's folded up unusually, and we look at it, and you open it up, you look at it, and you see Sandusky, Perkins Township area kind of highlighted and pointed out.
The murder had taken place in Perkins Township, and Verdi was pulled over in neighboring Sandusky. It was time for Special Agent Stuart Shoaff and the other agents to take on a role beyond that of observers.
We decided to get a federal search warrant, and we did that, waiting some time at the residence while several agents went back to the office and drafted the affidavit and search warrant.
With the federal warrant outlining evidence sought in connection with the murder, agents could conduct an additional search of the Verdi home and seize any related items. It did not take long to find more incriminating evidence, including a Mac 11 semi-automatic handgun, the same model as the murder weapon. Its serial number was ground off in the same manner as the killer's gun.
And we also found a pistol in the wood bin. We found trash bags, similar to the trash bag material that was used to make a makeshift cartridge catcher on the Mac 11, which was used for the homicide.
With probable cause increasing, agents secured a third warrant to search the vehicle Mark Verdi drove on the night of the murder. At the Cleveland Federal Building's garage, FBI technicians processed suspect Stephen Yee's car. Though 2 weeks had passed since the murder, the car did contain evidence for Special Agent Holloway.
During the processing, we located 2 shell casings, 9mm shell casings in the vehicle.
The 9mm specification was the right caliber for use in a Mac 11. Agents sent the shells to the FBI's ballistics lab for comparison against the murder weapon.
Some hairs?
The technicians also recovered hair samples from the back seat of the car.
And we found spatters of what was determined to be human blood on the rear of the passenger seat.
Liquefying the blood with distilled water, the technicians collected samples. Agents wondered if the blood got there on the night of the shooting.
Oh, yeah. This bag is.
Testing would show it was not the same blood type as the victims. Perhaps it was the killer's. Investigators recalled that the bullets had been split by the faulty silencer, possibly injuring the shooter. Neither Stephen Yee nor Mark Verdi seemed to have a fresh gunshot wound. But the family of the third suspect, John Bonds, reported he had had his arm in a sling the day after the murder, allegedly due to a work injury.
Now, you're familiar with John Ray Bonds?
To check the story, the FBI interviewed Bonds' employer and asked about the days surrounding the murder.
He advised us that John was scheduled to be at work on the night of February 27th, the night of the homicide, and had failed to appear for work as scheduled and had not been back since.
There was no record of Bonds suffering any injury at work.
Record there?
The pieces were falling into place, but they still had no direct proof.
We obtained a search warrant for hair sample, blood sample, and for John to be examined by a physician for signs of him having sustained some type of a gunshot wound.
They had the warrant. Now they needed to find the suspect.
Just like any other fugitive search, you would interview family, friends, continuously checking back with the employer, spot check his residence, other places that he's known to hang out, such as a clubhouse, friends, bars where he's known to hang out. And all that was done in an effort to locate John Bonds unsuccessfully.
In 1988, Ohio authorities sought John Ray Bonds, who had left the area after a murder in Perkins Township. After weeks of searching for Bonds, Special Agent Charles Holloway got an important call.
On March 14th, 1988, John's attorney contacted the Cleveland office of the FBI and said that John knew that the FBI was attempting to locate him and that he would present himself at the FBI office in Cleveland on March the 16th of 1988, which he did.
Agents served Bonds with a warrant requiring him to give a blood sample. The doctor concluded a fresh tattoo on his arm covered a recent injury. Bonds did not know the FBI was developing innovative DNA profiling technology that might conclusively match a suspect's blood to samples from a crime scene. Agents hoped that if they did find a match, the courts would accept the new science as evidence.
We had a very good circumstantial case against him based on all of the interviews that we had done. But we did not have fingerprints from John Bonds.
With only circumstantial evidence, prosecutors did not want arrests yet, so Bonds was released. Then, on March 22nd, an Ohio Department of Transportation cleanup crew working the highway outside Sandusky discovered the vehicle title for David Hartlob's van. Nearby, they found a handgun, a wool hat and a glove, and a box of 9mm ammunition, the caliber used in Mac 11s. Aware of the Hartlob murder, they called authorities. The placement of the items further implicated the Cleveland gang for prosecutor Jim Woolley.
It happens to be a state highway that would connect Sandusky, Ohio to Cleveland, Ohio. It would be a route that someone would travel if they were driving from Sandusky on their way back to Cleveland.
The suspects might have thrown the items out the window as they drove away from the crime. FBI technicians collected the evidence for analysis. Examiners at the FBI's Hairs and Fibers lab compared the evidence from the highway to evidence they already had.
Fibers consistent with that glove had been located on the murder weapon. Fibers consistent with that glove had been located on a shirt which was removed from Mark Verdi's house during the March 9th search warrant. And fibers were found on the glove consistent with the carpet in David Hartlob's van.
Additionally, a hair found on the glove matched a hair recovered from the back seat of the car the suspects were in on the night of the murder. At the Firearms and Tool Marks Unit, FBI examiners worked on the murder weapon, trying to find a trail to its owner.
The murderers had gone to great lengths to try to make this gun not traceable, they thought, and they ground down the serial number such that you couldn't see it. But through a chemical restoration process, the FBI was able to raise up the serial number and identify the serial number, even though you couldn't see it with the naked eye, and then you could trace that gun.
Checking the records of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, investigators found the murder weapon's registered owner. He confirmed that he used to own that Mac 11 and the one found at Verdi's house. But several months earlier, both guns had been stolen from his car, which he had parked outside a friend's house. That friend's name was Stephen Yee.
Here we have Steve Yee is stopped in a traffic stop minutes after the homicide in Sandusky, Ohio, and we can show that the murder weapon was stolen from a vehicle parked in front of his residence several months before the homicide.
The circumstantial evidence against Yee, Verdi, and Bonds was building. But agents wanted something more definite before they made arrests. In April 1987, they learned of a breakthrough regarding the blood evidence in the case. FBI serology experts had determined that the blood in David Hartlub's van had actually come from two individuals, presumably the victim and an assailant. Examiners compared the blood from the victim's van to that from the suspect's car.
The lab came back and told us that the blood which had been recovered in Steve Yee's vehicle matched the blood that had been recovered in Hartlub's vehicle.
The match was at the blood type level only. Still, it meant that the man in the back seat at the traffic stop was likely the killer in the van. They hoped the revolutionary DNA technology being developed would reveal a more exact molecular match.
I had read an article in one of the FBI publications that the FBI is putting together its DNA unit, and they were in the process of doing research. So inasmuch as we had blood in our case, which we felt could possibly be compared with a suspect, I contacted the section chief that was in charge of putting that unit together and spoke to him about the possibility of doing a DNA analysis in this case.
At the FBI lab in 1988, examiners like senior scientist Dr. Bruce Bedoli were still testing the groundbreaking forensic science of DNA profiling.
DNA is the blueprint for what you are, what I am, for what all living things are. So if we could tap into that blueprint, we could tap into information that help us identify individuals.
Examiners were working to establish a scientifically sound way to profile the DNA from a known source, like a suspect's blood, and compare it to the DNA from an unknown source, like the blood left at a crime scene.
And we generate a profile of, looks something like a barcode, that then we compare that barcode to another barcode. And the barcodes are in the same kind of pattern. They may have come from the same source.
By early 1989, after years of testing quality control, the examiners believed they were ready to use the science in the federal courts. The Hartlub case would be the first one. Examiners profiled the DNA sequence from the blood in the van and from the blood of John Bonds. Comparing the markers of the two sequences, they made a match. Exactly the evidence Assistant U.S. Attorney Jim Woolley needed.
The DNA was a critical piece of the puzzle because it provided virtually conclusive evidence that John Ray Bonds, a member of the biker gang, the third man in the backseat of the car with Steve Yee and Mark Verde, stopped 5 minutes from the homicide, had bled inside the van.
March 7th, 1989. More than a year after the murder, it was time to bring in the killers. In the hours before dawn, SWAT teams prepared for a simultaneous takedown of the three suspects. They knew it was safest to catch them while they were still asleep. The teams fanned out to the homes of Yee, Verde, and Bonds. They hoped to strike before the suspects could warn one another or flee. One team moved on Verde's house, while another entered Yee's. Mark Verde was arrested without a struggle.
Anybody inside?
At the same time, and 20 miles away, his fellow gang member Stephen Yee was taken into custody as well. But the third suspect, John Ray Bonds, was not at home. Nor was he with known family members. The man investigators believed was a ruthless assassin was again on the run. In the summer of 1989, authorities on the trail of fugitive John Ray Bonds had him profiled on a nationally televised crime show. On the program, they described Bonds, his distinctive tattoos, and the places he frequented, hoping someone, somewhere, would recognize the suspected murderer. On the afternoon of November 8, 1989, a patron at a bar in Paducah, Kentucky, spotted Bonds. He remembered the tattoos on the fugitive's hands from the TV show and took a chance. He contacted the local sheriff, who called the FBI resident agency in Paducah. They were ready to arrest Bonds, but they had to be careful, according to Special Agent Stuart Shoaff.
They felt that going into the bar there may be some trouble if they entered the bar at that point, because there were a lot of biker types in the bar, and they did not want to have any type of confrontation. They felt it would be much safer to set up some type of roadblock.
The FBI, Kentucky State Police, and local officers staged a fake traffic accident on a road leading from the bar to a known biker clubhouse in the area. When Bonds and another gang member left the bar, agents followed. As they hoped, the pair headed toward the clubhouse and got on the blocked road. The trooper waved them forward.
Don't worry about it, this big cool.
And undercover police pulled in behind them. Though he didn't know it, Bonds was surrounded.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Out of the car, right now! Out of the car! Hands off, run the car!
Nearly 2 years after the murder of David Hartlob, John Ray Bonds was finally in custody. Now, he and the other two suspects, Stephen Yee and Mark Verdi, would stand trial for the killing. FBI senior scientist Dr. Bruce Bedoli had to help convince federal judges that the DNA evidence should be allowed in the trial.
New technologies, as they enter the court, will be challenged for their admissibility. So I had a role in going in to defend the technology, to demonstrate that it met the scientific standards to be admitted into court so that the jury could hear about the evidence in the first place.
After months of hearings, Assistant U.S. Attorney Jim Woolley succeeded in getting the DNA evidence ruled admissible. With it and the other evidence, he went into the trial confident.
This is a case where just piece after piece after piece of evidence was built through forensic testing, ballistic testing, serology, forensic chemistry, hair and fiber analysis, DNA analysis, serial number restoration. And you start just building those things one on top of the other. And there's really very little that a defense attorney can say when faced with a case like that.
Stephen Yee, Mark Verdi, and John Bonds were all convicted of murder and sentenced to life. The unrelenting investigation put 3 killers behind bars and helped open the door for a forensic technology that has changed criminal investigations forever. At a bank outside Los Angeles, a nighttime explosion that no one hears. Cunning criminals no one sees. It's the perfect burglary in which cash and bandits vanish without a trace. With little to go on, the FBI must use instinct and determination to solve a case that seems impossible to crack.
Bank robbery is a brazen yet simple crime. A mask, a gun, a note passed to a teller. But bank burglary is different. It takes skill to disable an alarm, to penetrate a locked vault. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. In 1972, the largest bank burglary in U.S. history went down without a hitch. $8 million gone. Now agents must track a gang of sophisticated criminals with enough money to disappear forever.
Laguna Niguel, California, March 27, 1972. It's Monday morning at the United California Bank. Employees prepare to open for business. When the bank manager tries to unlock the vault door, it won't open.
Somebody call the safe company.
A technician from the vault manufacturer arrives 20 minutes later to check the door's locking system. He works for hours. The combination is right, the tumblers are in place, but unexplainably, even the expert can't get it open.
It's not working.
Looking for another way in, the technician climbs into the rafters above the vault. He is stunned to find a hole cut in the roof. Below, a second gaping hole leading to the vault. Agents from the FBI Santa Ana resident agency immediately respond to the bank. The first investigator to survey the cluttered crime scene is Special Agent Jim Conway.
Upon arriving and getting up on the vault and looking down at this hole, we could see a pile of rubble, I would say 6 feet tall and expanding out.
Once inside the vault, the technician discovers a screwdriver jammed into the lock's gears. Agents suspect the thieves wanted to delay the discovery of the crime. The place is a disaster.
My first impression was there was going to be a lot of time and effort needed to work this out. It was something we couldn't just plow into because we had a crime scene. We were able to walk in, a few of us, and look around and see what the extent was as best we could determine. But we're walking over watches and rings and valuables and everything else because it was all piled into this big cement mess.
Special Agent Frank Calley begins sorting through the chaos.
Just everything was thrown all over the place. There, the locks of hair, all kinds of check statements, photographs, things that people would normally put in a safety deposit box. I remember seeing urns with ashes of deceased people in there.
The agents begin the arduous task of determining how the burglars entered the seemingly impenetrable vault. They notice dark soil and pieces of burlap mixed with the cement rubble. Outside, they find the bank's audible alarm disabled. They also find a ladder. Interpreting the clues, investigators piece together the burglars' intricate plan to breach the vault. They disabled the alarm by injecting it with liquid styrofoam. It hardened, freezing the clapper in place and rendering the alarm useless. Then the burglars climbed onto the roof. Investigators find tape on a rooftop outlet, suggesting the burglars used the bank's electricity. When agents cannot find fingerprints on the tape, they conclude the burglars wore gloves. Fully powered, the burglars sawed a 4-foot opening into the roof.
Good, good. All right, we're in.
Once inside the rafters, they clearly knew how to bypass the interior silent alarm system.
They took a couple of the wires and that would have normally transmitted the alarm signal, and they clipped them both and soldered them together.
It was delicate, highly skilled work.
Knew right away they were smart. They did the homework.
Even with the alarm disabled, 16 inches of steel-reinforced concrete stood between the burglars and the contents of the vault. The only way through, an intensely powerful blast. Agents believe the bandits drilled holes into the cement, then inserted dynamite and electric blasting caps. The blast had to be precisely directed to blow through the cement without injuring the burglars or attracting attention. Agents conclude that the burlap fragments in the soil in the vault indicate that the burglars came prepared.
They placed the burlap bags over the explosive, not only to muffle the sound, but also it would direct the charge into the vault itself and keep the charge going into the concrete where they wanted it rather than coming back out where they were.
The investigators discover burn marks on the steel rebar that reinforces the cement. They conclude that the burglars knew the blast could not crack steel and came prepared with an acetylene torch. Agents turn their attention to assessing the total loss. Bank officials report $50,000 is missing from cash drawers. But the thieves were not content with the cash. They took the time to break into 458 safe deposit boxes. Investigators find tool marks on the locks of the boxes and deduce the burglars used a pointed instrument and a lot of brute force to break them open one by one. They carefully sorted through every item, leaving behind what they didn't want. Amazingly, the bandits were so methodical that they got in and out without being seen or heard. In 1972, most banks were closed on weekends. Agents conclude that the suspects took full advantage of that fact.
Apparently they had been in there several times, in and out over the weekend. They probably went in on Friday night, and they probably didn't get out there late Sunday night.
Not only had the burglars pulled off such a lengthy, complex crime, they did it without leaving a single fingerprint. Although investigators do find a brown cotton glove and broken drill bits, neither is unique enough to be traceable. Agents and deputies collect the debris for further examination at the crime lab. But with no apparent evidence and no witnesses, agents are facing the tough challenge of identifying and locating a group of highly skilled criminals, including electronics and explosives experts. Investigators turn their attention to determining the total loss from the safe deposit boxes. It will be extremely difficult since banks do not keep records of their contents.
Ordinarily, if you had a bank burglary, you would be missing cash. You'd go out and say, yes, we got to find $350,000 worth of cash. At this point, we did not know what was gone. It's a very affluent area. And so the possibilities of a tremendous amount of money and material being lost was evident.
Investigators begin the arduous task of carefully sorting and cataloging every item left in the vault. Then, by interviewing every box holder, agents learn the details of missing jewelry, rare gold coins, and bearer bonds. By a process of elimination, they slowly create a list of the stolen goods. The bank's loss of $50,000 in cash pales by comparison, as the value of the missing items rises to over $8 million. The heist has now become the largest bank burglary in U.S. history. With no physical evidence to go on, investigators hope to develop leads by thinking like the bandits.
We felt that they would need oxygen to burn the rebar, and so we canvassed hospitals, oxygen supply places, and things like that.
Despite checking every oxygen supplier in the area, agents come up with nothing.
We also felt that a drill of some type had to be used, obviously a large one, so we canvassed places to find if anybody had sold or rented a large drill, as we felt it would have to be used.
Again, agents go to dozens of equipment shops, checking records during the time surrounding the break-in. But they find no suspicious purchases or rentals. Clearly, the criminals in this case have masterminded and pulled off a nearly perfect heist. With no witnesses, no direct clues, and certainly no suspects, it seems impossible to solve. But the FBI is determined to identify the burglars and find them wherever they are. In March 1972, a professional crew of burglars blasted their way into a bank vault in Laguna Niguel, California, near Los Angeles. Over a weekend, they emptied hundreds of safe deposit boxes, made off with more than $8 million in cash and valuables, then disappeared without a trace. Agents believe they are an experienced band of criminals. The case is difficult to crack for the small Santa Ana FBI office. Needing more resources, they seek the help of the larger Los Angeles FBI field office. Special Agent Paul Chamberlain supervises the investigation.
At the time, it was our conclusion that this was the largest bank burglary in the history of the United States. We went to just about everyone in the office. It was several hundred agents, and that's not a typical response, but it became apparent that the crime was a significant crime.
The Santa Ana agents quickly briefed the Los Angeles office on the details.
We'd not had a bank burglary like that in recorded history in the Los Angeles division. Burglaries that did occur with banks involved a small effort, and this was a systematic, big-time operation that lasted over 3 days.
Since the burglars seem to be highly skilled professionals, yet have not struck Los Angeles before, agents conclude that they're probably from out of town. An agent sends a teletype to all other FBI offices, asking if anyone knows of similar bank burglaries. They get a hit from the Cleveland, Ohio field office, where agents have been investigating similar bank heists, 13 of them, in fact. The description of the California burglary immediately strikes a chord with them, including Special Agent Buddy Nix.
We knew from the modus operandi, the MO, the outside alarm had styrofoam spray placed in it to keep the audible alarm from activating, the fact that it was a roof job, the fact that the alarm system had been bypassed were all indications that bank burglary crews in Youngstown very well may have been involved.
The Ohio agents believe the 13 Ohio bank heists were committed by the Youngstown Erie Bank Burglary Group, a loose association of criminals tied to organized crime. The California agents were right. These are no small-time crooks.
Youngstown at that time was just a mecca for organized crime activities. I mean, they controlled the illegal gambling businesses, and they were, very much involved in interstate transportation of stolen property and tractor-trailer thefts, and there were burglary crews that were operating, and there were a lot of very sophisticated burglaries that were taking place at that time.
As part of earlier investigations, the Youngstown, Ohio agents have identified nearly 100 men believed to be part of the burglary group. They've collected intelligence on each of them. Agents send the men's names and mugshots to the Los Angeles FBI. There, investigators try to narrow the list. Since the criminals must have traveled to California, agents check airline passenger manifests from around the time of the burglary. Without the benefit of modern computers, it is a time-consuming process done by hand. After an exhaustive search, they find the names of 5 men from the Youngstown list who had boarded a recent flight to Los Angeles.
That's great.
Emil Dinzio, Harry Barber, Charles Mulligan, Charles Brockles, and Philip Christopher arrived in California 9 days before the heist. The 6th man, James Dinzio, came in on a different flight the day before the burglary. Finally, agents have developed suspects.
Dinzio and his brother, Emil Dinzio.
Agents review the intelligence gathered on the 6 members of the burglary group. All have long records for home and small business burglaries,
First suspect we're going to look
and
at
have done
today,
little jail time.
Emil. So if we get him,
Emil Dinzio appears to be the brains of the gang, the leader.
you need to pay attention to that picture and remember his face.
He plans the jobs and handpicks the team to pull them off.
This is Charles Brockles. This guy has a
Charles
history of-
Brockles is an explosives and electronics expert, well-versed in bank alarms. Agents believe Philip Christopher is a lookout for the gang.
He's known for his expertise in bank robbing.
The other gang members are all relatives of the leader and probably help with the grunt work. There's Emil's older brother, James,
His face only a mother could love.
and Charles Mulligan, Emil's brother-in-law.
Here, you're gonna really appreciate this guy. Yeah,
There's also Emil's nephew, Harry Barber.
Okay. Why don't you take a look at this guy?
The men are all seasoned professional criminals, well-connected in organized crime.
Harold Barber, he's a lowlife.
The Youngstown, Ohio FBI has linked them circumstantially to many bank burglaries, but never had direct evidence.
All right, and he's
The
a
charges
nobody.
never stuck.
He's a nobody, not a heavyweight, but we gotta.
The only information that links the suspects to the crime is that they were all in Los Angeles at the time of the burglary. Agents begin the difficult job of tracking their movements, starting at the airport.
We then canvassed and interviewed every cab driver at LAX that was working that day. That was a massive project.
If I showed you a couple pictures.
Agents spend days interviewing dozens of drivers. It finally pays off. One cab driver recalls taking a group of 5 men to a home in the nearby community of Southgate. He remembers the trip well.
The cab driver specifically remembered these folks for 2 reasons. One, because of the $100 tip, but for the other reason, they were tough, mean-looking guys.
Agents get the address from taxi records and decide to go there. But it is a risk. Agents fear that if the suspects find out they're investigating the burglary, they might skip town. They have to take the chance. It is their only lead, according to Special Agent Jim Conway.
But we had to interview somebody, we had to get our investigation started. And we were concerned that, naturally, that the rest of them would be aware that we were at least that close to identifying them.
Agents learn that the Southgate house belongs to the Barber family.
I don't have any idea.
Ronald Barber, the brother of suspect Harry Barber, agrees to an interview but is elusive.
We did not have a warrant or anything at that particular time. We had nothing positively to tie him to it. But the more he talked, the more he seemed to know, and the more we were impressed that he knows a whole lot.
Ronald Barber claims the 6 men were never at his house. Agents still have no direct evidence. Yet they believe Barber's story may be at least partially true. They note that the house seems too small to accommodate Ronald and 6 other men staying there. Agents conclude that at least some of them likely stayed elsewhere. So agents spread out, checking one hotel after another, starting with those closest to the bank. Special Agent Frank Calley.
We figured these fellows were high rollers. They knew they were going to get a big haul, so they were going to stay at a nice place. So we were knocking on the doors of every fine hotel in the LA, Orange County area.
It is more tedious, time-consuming footwork, but they do not give up.
Sir, I'm with the FBI.
On a hunch, one agent decides to take a different approach.
There was an agent who figured that maybe they didn't stay at the best hotels, and he took it upon himself to walk into a truck stop hotel. And lo and behold, he found out that Emil Denzio had stayed there.
You're sure? You're positive.
Emil Denzio is the leader of the burglary group.
But they would have been together, all 5.
Records show his brother-in-law, Charles Mulligan, also rented a room there around the time of the heist. Agents check Mulligan's registration card and find a license plate number.
Denzio.
They trace it to the Southgate address of Ronald Barber. Investigators now have 7 suspects, the 6 from Ohio and the local Ronald Barber. They still have nothing directly linking the men to the crime. But the investigation is finally rolling forward, and the FBI is closing in. Weeks after a well-planned multi-million-dollar bank burglary in Southern California, the FBI identifies 7 suspects. Ringleader Emil Denzio and his brother James Denzio, Charles Mulligan, Philip Christopher, and Charles Brockles, and Harry Barber and his brother Ronald Barber. A notorious gang of professional thieves based in Youngstown, Ohio. Agents determine at least 2 of the men stayed at an area motel days before the heist.
Okay.
Special Agent Paul Chamberlain is convinced the men are responsible, but he has no evidence to prove it.
By reference and innuendo, you kind of knew who was involved, but you need to have the evidence in federal court.
Agents subpoena the motel phone records and find a series of calls to a local man named Earl Dawson.
Our background investigation concluded he was a former military, a Marine guy with some training in munitions, explosives. And in as much as we had major explosions that occurred at the bank, he became interesting to us.
Special Agent Frank Calley learns of another interesting connection.
Yeah, we're going to be down on...
Dawson is from Youngstown, Ohio, the base of operations for the burglary group.
So the light goes off again, and we say, well, now we got another break. We got the connection somehow between the boys from Youngstown, the Denzios, and their cohorts in Dawson.
The agents decide to approach Dawson at his house to convince him he should cooperate. They show him pictures of Emil Denzio and his associates and ask if he knows them. Dawson is reluctant to talk.
I was in the Corps as well.
Knowing Dawson is a former Marine, Special Agent Calley appeals to his sense of duty.
Earl was a very patriotic individual, and I'm a former Marine, and we just kind of played that. I said, come on, Earl. you know, you're a former Marine, you've served your country. I said, what's important, Earl? It's a big case. And he said, what is it? I said, heard about that bank burglary down in Laguna Niguel?
Calley's tactic works. Dawson comes clean. He admits knowing 3 of the suspects, Emil Dincio, Emil's brother James, and Charles Mulligan. He and Mulligan are old friends who grew up together in Youngstown. Dawson tells Calley that the day before the Laguna Niguel heist, Mulligan came to his house with the other suspects. Mulligan gave him $100 to leave the house for a few hours so they could hold a meeting. Dawson left without hearing what they discussed.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
But Dawson adds that he does have something the agents might want to see.
He shows up the other day.
Mulligan left a car in his garage. It's still there. It is a huge break. Perhaps the car holds the evidence they've been looking for. But before they can check it out, they're interrupted.
While I'm talking to him, the phone rings. He answers the phone and he picks it up and he points to the phone and he mouths the word Mulligan.
Thinking quickly, Agent Calley asks Dawson's permission to eavesdrop, a legal requirement for using what he hears in court. Dawson signals that there is another phone in the bedroom.
Mulligan comes out and he says, hey, has anybody, the FBI been around? Dawson says, no, they're not around. I think I almost had to laugh myself at the time listening to this. He's playing a beautiful role out there. He's really flip-flop. He's on our side now.
Mulligan explains that he knows the FBI has been asking questions about him and his cohorts, and that they're getting worried. And he's heading back to the Los Angeles area.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Mulligan said, I want to come out tonight and to see us. I'm going to move the car in the garage.
Agent Calley seizes the opportunity to trap Mulligan. But he fears that he might be setting up Dawson
That'd be great.
and the FBI.
Didn't know for sure this officer, he could be sitting across the street at the time watching us, for all we know, with our FBI car sitting out front.
Calley instructs Dawson to arrange a meeting with Mulligan in a public place. Dawson tells Mulligan to meet him at his favorite bar, the Walnut Room. Mulligan agrees. Now agents have a chance to inspect the car Mulligan left in the garage. But it does not belong to Dawson, so he cannot give them permission to search it.
Keep running.
Through the window, they can see a pair of brown cotton gloves, exactly like the one found in the vault. The back seat is covered in what appears to be cement dust, similar to the debris found at the crime scene. It is the probable cause agents need to obtain a search warrant for the car. They also obtain an arrest warrant for Charles Mulligan and set up surveillance at the Walnut Room. Plainclothes agents position themselves inside the bar, not far from Dawson.
We staked it out, so to speak. Four of us were inside waiting, and we had a couple of men outside waiting for him to arrive.
Dawson introduces Agent Calley to some regulars as a buddy from the Marine Corps. The agents have to look natural while staying sharp. Earl Dawson's safety is their primary concern.
We didn't know what was going to happen, so we had to protect Earl.
Agents devise a method for Calley and Dawson to communicate. Either one of them can signal the other by simply going to the restroom where they will meet. 3 hours later, Mulligan finally arrives. He appears to be alone and greets his old friend, who tries to get him to talk about the heist.
I didn't want to be too close. I was across the bar from him. Earl was talking to him and asking him something about, you were involved in that deal down in Laguna Niguel. And old Mulligan said, well, what do you think?
Unable to hear everything they're saying, Calley heads to the restroom. Dawson follows. In the men's room, Calley asks for an update. Dawson explains that Mulligan is anxious to leave and to pick up the car from Dawson's garage.
No problem. Okay.
Calley tells him to go, but instructs Dawson not to get into Mulligan's vehicle.
Whatever you do, don't get inside that car. Okay, don't get in the car.
What Calley doesn't tell him is that agents are in the parking lot, poised to capture Mulligan. Agents finally make the first arrest in the case. As they take Mulligan into custody, they pretend to arrest Dawson as well to mask his involvement with authorities. Mulligan is charged with bank burglary. He does not resist arrest. But when agents try to question him, he refuses to talk. They hope to find answers in the car he was trying to pick up. Agents return to Dawson's house and search the car in the garage.
We found this large motor used as a drill and some other tools that we felt were very much probably the ones that were used in the actual committing of the crime.
Agents recover stolen coins, along with drill bits, acetylene torches, hammers, and other items that could have been used for the Laguna Niguel heist.
Exactly.
And we felt very good about it, felt we hit pay dirt, we hit a home run.
Evidence technicians ship everything to the FBI lab in Washington, D.C. for processing. As examiners take days to analyze the evidence, field agents follow up on more phone records from the motel. One number belongs to a real estate agency in Laguna Niguel, California. A manager shows agents a condo she rented to suspects Ronald and Harry Barber days before the burglary. The Barbers told her they planned to stay 3 months, but left after only 3 weeks.
No damage, no problems.
She was able to put the day that they got there and the day they left together for us.
This was rented to Ronald Barber.
The men moved out suddenly on March 27th, the day the crime was discovered.
He rented it for 3 months.
The manager gives investigators permission to search the condo, which is within sight of the targeted bank. Agents begin processing the condo for evidence, but initially find nothing.
The entire inside had been wiped clean with some kind of a product.
It seems the suspects were as meticulous there as they had been during the burglary.
There was no evidence recovered at the bank of any value, and therefore, it was not surprising to see a place that had been wiped down. It appears as if they had done everything to ensure there was no evidence. They'd done just about everything right.
But in fact, they made one crucial mistake.
One of the evidence persons went to the dishwasher and opened the dishwasher and realized that it was loaded with dirty dishes and that someone had neglected to push the on button.
The dirty dishes are covered with multiple latent fingerprints. At the FBI lab, examiners recover the prints from the dishes and from the tools agents found in Mulligan's car and match them to 5 of the 7 suspects. Toolmark experts examine the damage on the safe deposit boxes and compare them to the striking point of a snout-nosed hammer from Mulligan's trunk. They report another match. The FBI's case is gaining momentum with good circumstantial evidence and one suspect in custody.
All right.
Now agents must find the other 6 and enough evidence to put them away for good. In Southern California, the FBI connects a team of 7 members of an organized crime ring based in Youngstown, Ohio, to a multi-million-dollar bank burglary when they recover tools used in the heist from the car of suspect Charles Mulligan. Mulligan's arrest puts the investigation into high gear, according to Special Agent Paul Chamberlain.
We did realize that with the arrest of Mulligan, eventually, and Shortly thereafter, they were going to figure out that we had figured who this group was. And therefore, we heightened our investigation. We did everything as fast as we possibly could.
But since most of the evidence is circumstantial, the case hinges on the testimony of informant Earl Dawson, a man the FBI must protect.
Go ahead and leave with him, all right? But whatever you do, whatever happens.
Earl was probably the key witness because the case was kind of dry all along. It's physical evidence. Burglars are very dry. Earl was able to put all the principals together. They were charged with conspiracy and burglary, and they could put them all together at his house.
Dawson begins receiving threatening phone calls, pressuring him to keep quiet. The caller insists on a face-to-face meeting to discuss the matter. But the FBI learns the meeting may have a more sinister purpose.
We received informant information that a contract was put out on Earl Dawson's life. They were going to come out and attempt to kill Dawson.
Agents instruct Dawson to arrange a meeting at his favorite bar, the Walnut Room. But don't tell him about the planned hit. Agents want to confront the men to send a message to the Youngstown crime ring that the FBI is on to them. Agents are confident that they can protect Dawson as long as he stays in a public place.
I told him, Earl, don't leave this bar. Whatever you do, don't go any place with this. You don't ever leave that room. You stay right in that bar.
As before, if either Dawson or Calley needs to communicate, they will meet in the restroom. The alleged hitmen arrive.
I started buying Earl some pretty heavy drinks. Earl was basically a beer drinker, but you could see they were trying to switch him up to stronger drinks.
When Dawson starts to look concerned, Calley heads to the restroom.
Come on, hurry up. Get him right out of here.
Dawson tells the agent he's scared. The hitmen want him to leave with them.
I said, Earl, you're not leaving this place with him. Believe me, you're not leaving.
Agent Calley tells Dawson to wait in the restroom.
Listen, stay right here, and I'll be right back to get you. All right, just stay right here. Okay. Hurry up.
The agents finally approach the men. They say they know what they came to do.
It's time to get out.
Let's go.
To the hitmen, the message is clear. Stay away from Dawson.
They had no problem leaving. I went directly to LAX, where they were escorted by LA's finest to an aircraft, and they left Southern California.
To keep Earl Dawson safe for good, the FBI decides to put him in the witness protection program.
You're gone. You're not going to see.
Agents then go after the remaining burglary suspects. Investigators secure warrants to search their last known addresses. At one house, agents get their first direct link to the burglary. Inside a woman's purse, they find a new $20 bill. They compare it to the list of serial numbers of sequenced bills taken from the bank. It's a match. Special Agent Buddy Nix at the Youngstown FBI office receives information from an informant indicating that these gang members had been known to bury the cash they stole until they could launder it safely.
We identified about a 20 or 25 acre field that we had information that some of the loot was buried in. We dug in that field for days on end, and using picks and shovels and probes, and we finally rented a bulldozer.
The land is adjacent to property owned by James Dincio. After more than a week of digging, agents hit the jackpot. They unearthed several foot lockers filled with millions of dollars in cash and bonds that they're able to trace back to the Laguna Niguel bank burglary. Agents then get yet another tip. A neighbor of gang leader Emil Dincio calls police.
A lot of money in there.
He reports finding a cooler buried in his yard. It is filled with nearly $100,000.
Right over there, Mr. Dincio.
Investigators match their serial numbers to those taken from the bank and recover Emil Dincio's prints from the cooler. With more direct evidence against the gang, agents begin making arrests. They first go to Ronald Barber's Southgate, California home. They are armed with search warrants. The only person they find is Ronald's mother. The brothers have disappeared.
No, I don't. I haven't seen him in a few
All
days.
6 remaining suspects are still at large. 3 months after a multi-million-dollar bank burglary, the FBI has solid evidence against 7 members of an organized crime ring. With only 1 suspect in custody, Charles Mulligan, they set out to arrest the others. Emil Dincio, James Dincio, Charles Brockles, Philip Christopher, Harry Barber, and Ronald Barber. Agents go to Emil Dincio's home near Youngstown, Ohio, and discover he's made no attempt to run.
Because of his attitude and his air of arrogance, Mr. Dincio actually believed he was above the law and was the kind of guy that could make things happen his way.
When agents arrest Dincio, he is carrying $537 in cash stolen from the Laguna Niguel bank.
Come on, we'll call it.
Other gang members are also surprisingly easy to find. Within days, authorities arrest Emil's brother, James Dincio, at an Ohio airport. His carry-on luggage is full of more money from the heist. Agents make their 4th arrest, nabbing Phil Christopher. In his apartment, they discover over $32,000 in stolen cash hidden in his closet. The 3 men arrogantly maintain their innocence and refuse to cooperate.
I got a deal right here.
2 months later, agents nab alarm expert Charles Brockles and get a break. They decide to confront him with what evidence they have and explain they can put him away for decades. They offer him a deal. In exchange for his full cooperation in outlining the burglary group and their crimes, prosecutors will drop all charges against Brockles and place him in the witness protection program. He agrees. Authorities have captured 5 of the 7 suspects. Everyone except the Barber brothers. Authorities extradite them to California and indict them on charges of conspiracy, burglary, and larceny of a federally insured bank. While in jail, Emil Dincio brags about the heist to another inmate and asks for his help in beating the charges.
If you don't take care of me,
Mr. Dincio confided in him a great many details that were not in his best interest to confide. He got this other inmate to help him buy an alibi for the time of the bank burglary.
But Dincio has chosen the wrong accomplice.
The other inmate was someone who had had contact with law enforcement on many occasions in the past, and he realized that what he was being told would be of some importance to someone, and he came to us.
Hoping to receive a lenient sentence for his own burglary case, the inmate tells agents of Dincio's confession and the plan to purchase an alibi.
And that was Vegas? In Vegas? Well, that's where his alibi.
The alibi was that Mr. Dincio was going to be in a hotel room in Las Vegas with a prostitute and with physical evidence that would show that he was there.
The FBI sets up a sting. Agents give the inmate a contact to offer Dincio.
Tickets to the show.
contact is actually an undercover agent who will provide Dincio's alibi materials. Dincio takes the bait. At the jail's visitation room, he meets the undercover agent who plays the role of a fixer, a criminal expert in solving problems.
Mr. Dincio received what he asked for. He got a registration card, which he registered in on. He put his fingerprint on it. He got a listing of shows, and he got the name of a prostitute who he was with, and that became part of his subsequent defense.
In October 1972, the trials begin in Los Angeles. Emil Dincio offers his false alibi, but the FBI's undercover fixer testifies about the sting. The jury convicts Dincio and the other 4 defendants. They receive sentences ranging from 15 to 20 years. But it is not over. 2 suspects, Harry and Ronald Barber, are still on the run. Within months, the FBI receives a tip that the 2 brothers are living in an apartment in Rochester, New York. Agents respond, and Ronald Barber answers the door. They arrest him and return him to California, where a jury convicts and sentences him to 15 years. He refuses to say where his brother Harry is. For 8 years, Harry remains a fugitive. Then, in 1980, a woman in Brookville, Pennsylvania, contacts the FBI.
I knew him as Brent.
She tells agents that her friend has been living with a man who told her he committed a famous bank burglary in California,
The other day, only because.
What's her name?
and that his real name is Harry Barber.
Harry Barber. Worried and nervous.
The woman tells the FBI that in an attempt to lead a legitimate life, the fugitive is working maintenance at a local campground.
Here, you know?
Agents move in and arrest him.
Hey, Barber. Hey, Barber. The FBI, put your hands in the air. Drop the flyers.
Harry Barber is convicted and sentenced to 20 years. Agents can finally close the case on the largest bank burglary in United States history. Authorities believe Emil Dincio and his gang committed more than a dozen bank burglaries, stealing over $30 million altogether. By putting them away, FBI agents from Ohio to California stopped one of the most sophisticated bank burglary rings of all time. In Virginia, a bank robbery explodes in violence.
Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
Spraying bullets from automatic weapons at anyone in their way, the robbers disappear. With no reliable witnesses, the police and the FBI have to decipher fragmented evidence to identify the shooters and then bring them to justice.
Despite what you see in the movies, most bank robbers come in quietly, pass a note, and slip away. They want cash, not bloodshed. But in Richmond, Virginia, a pair of gunmen entered a bank with their guns blazing. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. The raw violence of the crime shocked even the most seasoned investigators, who vowed to catch them before they struck again.
Throughout the 1990s, Richmond, Virginia averaged about 10 bank robberies a year. Prior to 1997, not one of them was fatal. On the morning of January 30th, 1997, the employees of a small bank on the east end of the city began the day's business. "23-year-old Christine Edwards, one of the bank's tellers, arrived for work. Her colleague, 21-year-old Tracy Freeman, was already there. Allison Davis, a customer service representative, and Richard Hartman, the bank's security guard, also began their day. Stephen Reed, a regular customer, arrived shortly thereafter. He entered the bank as the tellers finished setting up and was greeted by Hartman.
Good morning. How may I help you, sir?
No one saw the two men slipping in the bank's rear door.
First National Bank, how may I help you? Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
When the men struck, they did so swiftly and without mercy. "80 yards away, Richmond police officers Michael Webb and Dave Martin were at a convenience store getting coffee for their morning shift.
Hey! Something's happening to the bank. Where? I heard gunshots in the bank.
The bank.
The bank right up the street.
Excuse me, back up.
As the officers responded, Richmond Dispatch ordered backup units to the scene.
16 respond. 929, 116.
At the rear of the bank, the officers spotted a security guard lying in the parking lot.
The bank, man down. Looked like he'd been shot.
We're going to the front now.
Officer Martin guarded the front as Webb went to check on the guard. He was still alive. Barely. Webb called for an ambulance.
EMP now.
Then, two armed men emerged from the bank.
Stop! 119-10-5 to 119W. Going all right.
Shots are being fired, Johnson.
Webb emptied his clip. The officer knew he was pinned down and outgunned.
They stopped shooting, I stopped shooting, and I just knew these two guys were going to come each side of the vehicle after me. I changed magazines and sat there and waited for a couple of seconds.
But the gunman never came for him. Officer Martin left his position to back up Webb, but the assailants surprised him. With only a service weapon, Martin was outgunned, which allowed the robbers to get away from him. All the officer could do was report their position as they escaped across the cemetery.
Got a black male running with black jacket toward Divertown Road. 2 men.
The Richmond officer saw a cloud of red dye, the sign that the gunman had stolen a bundle of money containing a timed dye pack. The men leapt over the next wall, and the officer lost sight of them. The dispatcher forwarded the information to the Henrico County Police Department. Officer Martin searched the neighborhood, knowing 2 men with automatic weapons could be around any corner, but found no sign of the suspects.
.233 radio.
An Henrico patrolman arrived on the scene. EMTs arrived. They tended to the wounded guard outside. Richmond police entered the building.
Police, everybody down! Stay where you are!
Looking for any other gunman that might still be inside, and to check the condition of the other employees.
One teller down over here on the left.
They found 2 tellers, both shot.
It's okay. Come on out, man. Come on, everything's fine.
Allison Davis had taken cover.
Come on, come with me. She okay? Everything's okay.
She was not injured, but paralyzed with fear and taken to the hospital for evaluation. After clearing the bank, the officers felt it was safe to let the EMTs care for the wounded. For teller Christine Edwards, it was too late.
He's gone. Forensics responding. A squad and forensics responding. Supervisors for crime scene control.
Okay. Tell me where it hurts.
Tracy Freeman, in severe shock and bleeding heavily, was stabilized and rushed to the hospital.
All right.
Along with Richard Hartman, the security guard. At the Richmond Police Homicide Division, Detective Tom Leonard was disturbed by the robbers' brutality.
This was our most violent bank robbery that we can remember in our history. So our fear was they were in the neighborhood and we needed to get them off the streets.
Leonard headed to the bank. Officers collected items dropped by the robbers when they fled, including a Lorson 380 semi-automatic handgun and the clip to a Tech 9, another semi-automatic weapon. A canine officer with a tracking dog began searching for the suspects. The dog followed a scent through the cemetery. On Art Avenue, the dog lost the trail. Enrico and Richmond police canvassed the neighborhood, asking the residents if they had seen any strange men fleeing the area.
Rita?
But no one saw anything suspicious. Detective Leonard arrived at the crime scene with an evidence technician.
We immediately shut down that bank, and the only people that were inside the bank was myself and forensic people. So as we went through the bank looking for forensics evidence that we could pick up and look at, we found a lot of spent shell casings, which were fired. We had some that were unfired.
Those shells were 9mm, likely used in the Tech 9. Behind the teller's counter, investigators found a backpack, apparently left by the robbers. Inside was a piece of green tablecloth, a bottle of charcoal lighter fluid, a box of matches, and a note reading, "Please wait 5 minutes."
We couldn't figure out what that was all about.
On the surface of the teller's counter, investigators spotted several boot prints. They preserved each print with tape, which they would later compare with footwear collected from potential suspects. Because the bank was federally insured, police called in FBI Special Agent Wayne Waddell from the Richmond field office.
Let's go ahead and see what we can get on this, Tom.
At the bank, he and Detective Leonard checked a videotape that had recorded several surveillance cameras simultaneously. But there was a problem.
Oh man, Tom, look at that. We got a problem.
Something caused the film, in our opinion, to not be working correctly. It went one camera to another camera to another camera, and you were getting different angles. from the front door, the rear door, and from different teller positions.
They would need to make still photos from the individual frames to get any useful details. Special Agent Eduardo Alford joined the investigation. He knew the FBI would not stop until the gunmen were captured.
I'm sure if you talk to every person that was involved in this investigation, they would tell you the same thing. They wanted to stay on this case around the clock, which essentially is what happened.
Evidence collection at the bank lasted for hours.
Later on in the evening, at around 5:30 or 6, we received word that Henrico County had received a report of a break-in. I went over to the break-in site.
It was on Art Avenue, across from the cemetery, not far from where the K-9 unit had lost the trail of the suspects.
We didn't know if it had anything to do with the bank robbery or not. A young woman that lived there with her father found the front door had been knocked open and went in the house and discovered a lot of items that appeared knocked around or perhaps taken.
When Special Agent Waddell went inside, a Henrico officer pointed out a hole in the ceiling. It appeared someone had stepped through from above. They feared someone might be hiding in the attic. No one was there. They searched for evidence. Investigators found a pair of boots. They also found a backpack and a coat. Inside was another note reading, "Please wait 5 minutes." They also found another green tablecloth. Red dye, like that used in bank dye packs, covered many of the items.
So we absolutely felt that there was a connection between the house break-in and the bank robbery.
But they didn't know how the two crimes were related.
We had no idea why the bank robbers would come to that house. Was it an opportune moment? Did they know someone there? Was there something that drew them there? Was it happenstance? We had no idea. We interviewed the owner and his daughter and the daughter's boyfriend. And you interview these people because what are these bank robbers, what are these suspects doing in your house? And we're trying to find, is there a link or is there not a link?
The residents were equally confused. They reported that whoever broke into the house stole some men's clothing, suits and jackets. During questioning, the boyfriend acted nervous and claimed he had no information to add.
About what time did you get here?
At the hospital, a Richmond detective sought out the wounded victims who could provide eyewitness accounts.
Yes, ma'am.
But he was unable to see anyone. The two wounded survivors were still in surgery and could not be interviewed. Allison Davis, the customer representative who had escaped injury under her desk, was so distraught she had to be heavily sedated. Stephen Reed, the customer inside the bank, had been grazed by a bullet and had come to the emergency room on his own. But he was also of no help. He had Alzheimer's disease and could not remember any useful information.
By the end of that first day, we still had nothing more than what we had to begin with. So we knew there was going to be a ways to go. It was going to be a tough case.
In Richmond, Virginia, two armed bank robbers escaped with $10,000 cash, leaving 2 employees wounded, and 23-year-old teller Christine Edwards dead. The community was stunned, as was Assistant U.S. Attorney Nicholas Altamari.
This girl was an angel. And these guys, they just walked into the bank without a word spoken and shot her dead. It's sick.
Determined to find her killers, Richmond homicide detective Tom Leonard and FBI special agent Wayne Waddell had to pursue the case without the benefit of eyewitness accounts.
The problem with the employees and the customer that were in the bank is they were all traumatized. We actually could not talk to any of them for several days.
The detective tried to interview Allison Davis, the customer representative who had taken cover under her desk and escaped injury. But she was too traumatized by the ordeal.
Yes, I'm Detective.
Hospital staff had to sedate her. She was unable to speak.
30 seconds.
There were no witnesses available to tell investigators what actually happened inside the bank. All they had to understand those events was a flawed videotape of the surveillance cameras, according to Detective Tom Leonard.
That really caused us a problem trying to piece things together because we were missing little bits and pieces of the video, so you didn't get to see the whole robbery occur like you normally would.
Working with still photos captured from the surveillance video and records of the physical evidence recovered from the bank, the investigators pieced the crime together moment by moment. It was a complex series of events, all taking place in a matter of seconds.
You could see where the bank had obviously opened, but the only people who were inside were the security guard, the bank representatives, and one customer. The customer was standing there at the walkway area where you go through your little lines, talking to the security guard.
The lead gunman headed straight for the teller's counter.
The first guy bypassed the security guard without even looking at him, without even noticing him. In our minds, we realized the front guy was not worried about the security guard. He knew that the second guy was going to take him out.
In the photos, investigators saw the second robber pointing the Tech 9 at the guard. The first robber reached the counter and shot both tellers, killing one.
Crack that weapon, and he walks all the way down here.
Ballistics testing showed both were shot with the Lorsen 380 recovered outside the bank.
Here they're going over the counter.
A bullet hole behind the customer representative's desk showed the gunman turned and fired at her, but the shot missed. Investigators noted the unfired 9mm rounds found on the floor. This suggested the Tech 9 had likely jammed, and the gunman ejected rounds trying to clear it.
I think when she
The photos revealed there was a brief standoff. While the second robber tried to clear his Tech 9, the first attempted to shoot the guard with a Lorsen. But that gun malfunctioned too. The Lorsen 380, recovered outside the bank, was found with a jammed cartridge. When the guns jammed, the customer, Stephen Reed, fled, followed by Richard Hartman, the guard. Unable to clear the Lorsen, the lead gunman pulled an AR-15 assault rifle and followed them. Spent shell casings and bullet strikes found outside supported witness statements as to what had happened next in the bank's drive-thru. One witness saw a gunman chasing the fleeing customer. He grazed his arm. The guard tried his best to stop the killer, but was struck by multiple rounds. The gunman returned inside. Hartman was still alive. The witness watched as he entered the rear of the bank.
He pulls open that back door, the wooden door, right?
Investigators realized Hartman had risked his life trying to draw the robbers out. The robbers loaded a backpack with money, including one bundle that contained a dye pack. The guard approached, fired. missed. Another witness saw the guard flee the rear of the bank. The lead gunman pursued him into the parking lot and fired. The final shot to the temple permanently blinded Richard Hartman. Moments later, officers Webb and Martin found him there. Agent Waddell and Detective Leonard now had a clear account of the crime. Since the robbers came into the bank shooting, investigators believed their intent was to murder everyone, to eliminate all witnesses at the bank. The contents of the robbers' backpack revealed a plan to minimize witnesses on the outside.
The tablecloths and the note were, I think, to be put over the doors to ward off anyone coming up to the bank. Give us 5 minutes, we're still cleaning. Give us 5 minutes, we're not ready to open up yet. Something like that.
With the bank to themselves, the robbers could take their time. The piece of evidence that disturbed investigators the most was the lighter fluid. They believed the robbers were planning to use it to set the bank on fire as they left. Investigators knew they were dealing with especially violent criminals who acted with no remorse.
We needed to get them off the streets. Our fear was these people were going to get out into the community and commit some more murders because they'd already been bold enough to come into the bank and start shooting people. And we'd have to gunfight with these people to try to catch them later.
And the criminals were well armed. They still had an AR-15, the civilian version of the military's assault rifle, and a Tech-9, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. The one weapon recovered, the murder weapon, was a Lorson 380 semi-automatic. A records check revealed it had been stolen weeks earlier. Investigators released details of the guns to the press and asked for the public's help in tracking down the weapons. It worked, according to Assistant U.S. Attorney Nicholas Altamari.
We got lucky. We got very lucky. There was a person who was out there that overheard a woman that she worked with say that she thought that her husband sold those weapons. The FBI and the Richmond PD followed up on that lead and in fact did locate a gentleman who was a legitimate and licensed gun dealer.
At first, the dealer was reluctant to talk to authorities. He didn't want to incriminate himself by admitting that he might have sold weapons used in a murder. After agents assured him he could not be held liable since the guns were sold legally, he admitted he had sold a Tech-9 and an AR-15 a few days before the robbery.
Yeah, I got it all right here.
He located the ATF forms filled out by the purchaser. Investigators now had a name to move on.
The gun dealer told us that he had sold the weapons to Jermaine Sims. And we got hold of all of the units, all the guys working the case. Everybody was out trying to locate him. They finally ascertained that Sims was out of town.
While the search for Sims continued, investigators kept following their only other promising lead, the Art Avenue house that the robbers had broken into.
We started checking everything we could find out about the owner and his family. The girl that lived there had a boyfriend. We started checking him out. So we started from scratch with just basically an investigation on every person in the house.
The boyfriend, who had acted nervous during interviews, consented to a polygraph test. The polygraph examiner asked questions about the robbery and murder, while Special Agent Waddell observed. After an hour of questioning, the polygraph results were inconclusive.
Did you rob that bank?
The boyfriend could not be eliminated as a suspect. Special Agent Waddell knew he needed to re-examine the house and went back with a search warrant. This time, he returned with an FBI evidence response team. He was determined that a more thorough search would reveal a connection between the bank robbery and the break-in. The ERT technicians scoured the attic.
Got 2 guns here. 2.
Behind a wallboard, they found a Tech-9 semi-automatic pistol and an AR-15 assault rifle, precisely the type of guns used in the crime. They were still loaded, and their serial numbers were intact. Special Agent Waddell proceeded to check if these were the same guns purchased by Jermaine Sims.
We wanted to verify that they were in fact the weapons that had been bought from the gun dealer and used in the bank robbery. So we called back to the office, we read off the serial number, make and model of these weapons, and they were compared to the ATF firearms form.
They were the same weapons. A ballistics expert compared slugs recovered from the bank to slugs fired from the recovered AR-15. They matched, connecting that weapon to the fatal bank robbery. It seemed certain that Jermaine Sims had indeed bought the weapons used in the robbery and murder. Now, the FBI and Richmond police needed to find him. In Richmond, federal agents determined 2 weapons used in a deadly bank robbery were purchased by a man named Jermaine Sims. Agents could not find Sims, but a background check revealed he was receiving government assistance. They followed up on that lead. At the Social Services office, an administrator confirmed that Sims regularly came in to pick up food stamps. She flagged his name on their computers and agreed to page the FBI the next time the suspect showed up.
First name.
Yes.
Afternoon, ma'am. This is Special Agent Dorsey.
Agents went to the address listed on the ATF form and spoke to Sims' mother. She hadn't seen her son since she kicked him out the previous week. Days later, Richmond agents received a page from the Social Services Agency. Sims was there.
Okay, whatever. It's just a matter of pulling your check up. And
The administrator stalled Sims until the agents arrived. They hoped he didn't suspect anything. When the agents arrived, the suspect seemed calm.
Excuse me, sir. Special Agents FBI. I need you to come with me.
They asked Sims to come in for questioning. Reluctantly, he agreed.
Clear. Go ahead and thank her for me.
They took him to a nearby police station where investigators tried to get him to talk about the guns. But interviewing the suspect was no easy task, according to Assistant U.S. Attorney Nicholas Altamari.
Sims was a difficult person to deal with. He was a person who was filled with hate and hostility. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to certainly cooperate with us. We were dragging bits and bits of information out of him, and he was really only providing us information that we already knew. We were having a lot of trouble bringing him to the table, so to speak.
Sims denied any involvement in the crime, stating he was at his girlfriend's apartment at the time of the robbery.
Who lives there with him?
Over several hours, Altamari kept pressuring him until finally Sims admitted he had bought the AR-15 and the Tech-9 with the intent to sell them later for a profit. He said he stashed the weapons at a friend's house, a man named Ra, but claimed he couldn't remember the address.
A street called Main Street.
Instead, he gave directions.
Now, who else is this guy Ra?
The interview continued while Special Agent Wayne Waddell tried to confirm Sims' story.
Sims told us where this house was located and described the house to us. We went to the locations. We could not find the house.
Determined, Altamari confronted Sims with his deception.
Do you think you're dealing with a bunch of amateurs here?
But Sims maintained his story that he still knew nothing about the bank robbery.
You've already told me that.
By then, authorities had located Sims' girlfriend, who supported his alibi. But investigators had strong evidence connecting him to the crime.
You're going to jail for the rest of your life.
He was informed that he was under arrest for bank robbery.
There's nothing like the silence of a jail cell to focus somebody on their problem. And he had a huge problem. He had his name on the title to these weapons that were used in this robbery. And we thought that if we gave him a little time to think for himself, that he would eventually come to the conclusion that it was in his best interest to cooperate with us.
After a week of incarceration and repeated interviews, Sims decided to talk.
Now, tell me about the guns.
He said after he bought the guns, he left them with two friends, Rashid Jones and LaFawn Bobbitt. He still denied having any involvement in the robbery, but investigators continued to work on him.
He admitted that, that of course he knew that they had robbed the bank. He still claimed that he was surprised that they had used his guns to do it, and expressed his outrage that they would have done this to him and gotten him involved.
Sims said that after the robbery, Bobbitt and Jones came to his apartment wearing clothes he had never seen them in before. They told him about the botched robbery, the gunfight, and their escape. They explained that they had broken into the house on Art Avenue, choosing it at random. They stole some clothes and stashed their guns behind the wallboard in the attic. As they were leaving, Jones accidentally stepped through the ceiling. They then slipped out, avoiding the patrolling officers. They had the money with them, but it was stained red from the dye pack. Police records revealed that LaFawn Bobbitt had 11 prior convictions and was free on bond from charges related to grand theft auto. Rashid Jones had 7 prior convictions, including grand larceny, and was on parole. Investigators reduced the charge against Sims from bank robbery to conspiracy. Now, with the identity of the killers in hand, the real chase could begin. After a 1997 bank heist that left one teller dead, Richmond, Virginia authorities believed they had identified the gunmen as LaFawn Bobbitt and Rashid Jones. They had no idea where to look for Jones, but they did set up surveillance at Bobbitt's last known address.
Been in it for a while. Yeah.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Ken Melson was determined to apprehend these men as quickly as possible.
We had to get these 2 cold-blooded killers off the street as soon as we can, so we would eliminate the possibility that they could do the same thing again and someone else would get killed. and yet we had a lot of work to do collecting the physical evidence, getting it analyzed by the lab.
They needed more time to build the federal case, but could not afford to have two killers on the loose.
Prosecutor's office in Henrico County to charge Bobbitt with the burglary, the breaking and entering of the Art Avenue address. With respect to Jones, he was in violation of his parole, so we got a warrant for a parole violation.
Special Agent Wayne Waddell received the go-ahead to bring in the fugitives on those charges.
We had two agents watching LaFawn Bobbitt's house. The two agents were Paul Messing and Eddie Alford. And we finally get authorization to arrest LaFawn Bobbitt. I get hold of Messing and Alford. They tell me that Bobbitt has just left his house.
All right, thank you.
The agent told the surveillance team to follow Bobbitt, then headed off to back them up. The agents followed the suspect into town, where he boarded a bus. They kept in contact with Special Agent Waddell, updating him on their location.
302, 304.
Soon, Waddell caught up. They decided to arrest Bobbitt at the next bus stop.
Bus is right in front of me.
All right, 10-4, I'm getting ready to come around you right now.
Waddell pulled around front to get into position. The other agents pulled in behind. When the bus stopped, the agents were ready.
Come on, Bob, if you're under arrest for parole violation, put your hands up.
Within moments, suspect LaFawn Bobbitt was in custody. Investigators executed a search warrant on Bobbitt's home. In his bedroom, they discovered a manual for a .380 Lorson pistol, the same model used in the murder. They also found several spent .380 shells. For FBI Special Agent Eduardo Alford, this circumstantial evidence suggested it was Bobbitt who fired the fatal shot.
It was actually the weapon that one of the tellers was killed with. Finding that shell casing was very helpful as far as determining which one of the subjects or suspects might have had possession of this weapon on this particular day.
The FBI lab identified Bobbitt's fingerprints on items left at the bank by the robbers, the first evidence directly linking him to the crime. Technicians at the FBI's Question Documents Unit compared the boot impressions found at the bank with boots recovered from the Art Avenue house and from Bobbitt's home.
One of the latent footwear impressions was consistent with a boot that was left at the Art Avenue address. Another latent was found to be consistent with a boot found at Bobbitt's house at a later search. And so that circumstantially, again, not conclusively, but circumstantially placed Bobbitt and his apparel in that bank.
The boots found in the attic likely belonged to Bobbitt's alleged partner in the crime, Rashid Jones. Federal prosecutors now charged LaFawn Bobbitt with the bank robbery and murder, but investigators still needed to find Rashid Jones. 3 months after the crime, authorities received a tip from a store clerk. He reported a customer had attempted to pay with dye-stained bills. The clerk refused to accept them.
Mr. Jones had been in that particular area in the south end of Richmond trying to exchange some of this money. So the Fugitive Task Force pieced that information together, and they were really able to hone in on that particular area based on the proximity of this particular merchant store.
The FBI focused on that neighborhood, working all of their contacts. The effort paid off.
The information that came in was from just a reliable source of information. Somebody that was aware of this crime and knew Mr. Jones and was able to pinpoint a location of where he was hiding.
Jones was staying in a run-down apartment building frequented by transients. Agents were able to obtain the cooperation of a man living there. The arrest was planned for 5 a.m. when Jones would likely be asleep. They called the location and spoke to their contact inside. He said Jones was there, sleeping, and he had a gun. Their contact also warned there were other people in the apartment, and most of the lights did not work. As the arrest team approached the building, they went through a final briefing, reviewing photos of their target. They anticipated a dangerous confrontation. Jones was armed, desperate, and surrounded by innocent bystanders. In 1997, the Richmond Fugitive Task Force SWAT unit closed in on Rashid Jones, suspected of bank robbery and murder. They'd received a tip that Jones was hiding out in an apartment. From their contact inside, they learned Jones was armed and most of the lights did not work. There were several innocent people in the apartment. The building was dark and foreign, complicating an already difficult challenge in which SWAT had to take down an armed fugitive while protecting innocent bystanders. The team decided to sneak up on Jones silently. They hoped he had not been tipped off. When they reached the target apartment, an agent phoned their contact inside.
FBI, we're here.
The contact was escorted out of the building. When they made it to the room where Jones was said to be sleeping, he was gone. So was his gun. Tension mounted as SWAT began searching the rest of the apartment.
Get your hands up, man. Get your hands up. Come on, get up. Get up.
They found and removed 2 other residents. Every room was cleared, except one, a bathroom.
Jones, you know you're in there. Come out. Put your hands up, Jones. That's him. Let's go.
To the team's relief, Jones was unarmed and surrendered without a fight. The manhunt was over.
Get on, sit up.
Agents searched for his weapon. They discovered it in a closet, its firing pin broken. Had the gun been functional, the arrest might not have gone so smoothly. Jones was immediately charged with probation violation and later for the bank robbery. On February 25, 1998, the trial of Rasheed Jones and LaFawn Bobbitt began. But it would not be an easy case. Assistant U.S. Attorney Ken Melson and his prosecution team were unable to use any of the people in the bank as witnesses.
None of them could really testify for us because the guard was blind as a result of being wounded. One teller was dead. Another one had never had the opportunity to even turn around to see anything. And a third employee was unable to testify because she didn't see anything. She was under a desk during most of the robbery.
Melson found a way to deal with the lack of witnesses by commissioning a digital recreation of the crime.
We had to stand in for them digitally and show the jury what happened inside that bank. We were the witnesses' voice to the jury during the trial so that they could be involved and experience the agony of the victims, experience the moment of the bank robbery. And that would give them not only the true feeling of what went on in the bank, but the true carnage and intent of the defendants.
After hearing 6 days of testimony, the jury convicted both gunmen on all charges. Assistant U.S. Attorney Nicholas Altamari.
In the trial, they sat there smug as all get out. And it wasn't until after they were convicted that you could really see them start to worry, because then it was about them. Then they were worried.
Bobbitt and Jones were each sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jermaine Sims, who purchased 2 of the weapons used in the robbery, was convicted on conspiracy, accessory before the fact of murder, and several weapons violations. He, too, was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. As the victims and their families continue to heal, they and the city of Richmond know that Jones, Bobbitt, and Sims will never be a threat to anyone again.